Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Waldo and we are long overdue for an update on the Land Rover project. We're also going to try to answer the question of, is this thing any good off-road? This is Wanda, my 2005 Land Rover LR3. I bought her at an auction for only $1,700. She has a 4.4-liter Jag V8 with 300 horsepower, which is little more than adequate to move around the heavy chassis. All in all, this vehicle is a stylish way to move around in great comfort, when it's not broken, that is. Now, before I can take this off-road, I do have to address a low-hanging exhaust issue first. So when I bought this vehicle, the exhaust under here was all crunched up from some sort of an impact, and the exhaust was also rubbing up against the rear tire. I did a quick temporary repair job on it just to get it to pass inspection, but now it's time to do a permanent repair. So the exhaust sticks down a little too far to do any off-roading, and I think it also bottomed out on something, which is why it came apart. So really all I have to do is fire up the TIG welder and we'll replace the section from right there to up here. These things have only been on for a year and they're already like rusted to heck. Oh, I'm just gonna cut it. Ain't nobody got time for that. I picked up some stainless tubing from Summit Racing. One of them has a 45-degree bend in it to make my life quite a bit easier. That looks like that is actually a pretty decent fit, and then I'll need to extend that other end over there. But I might be able to start with this. Today I'll be welding with the Miller Multimatic 220 AC/DC. Now I normally use this for MIG welding, but today I'll be switching it over to the TIG setting. While I will be shielding the outside of the welds with 100% argon shielding gas, I'll be shielding the inside with this solar flux. Just mix this powder up with some alcohol and apply it to the inside of the welds, and it does the job. I always add way too much alcohol. Basically just want to give it a pasty consistency so that you can apply it and it'll stay once you apply it. With the solar flux applied to both sides of the joint, I'll try tacking it together without any filler rod because, well, frankly, I only have two hands. There we go. I am definitely not the best TIG welder in the world, but, you know, I get the job done. Well, yeah, I would say this actually matches up pretty well. As for the height of this, it's maybe a little bit lower than I would like, but it does actually look like it's pretty close to the exhaust tube on the other side, so I'm going to roll with it. And to join these up, I am going to use a clamp here, a band clamp, because these generally work pretty well, and they're really easy to install, and I don't feel like pulling the exhaust off right now to weld these together, but the next time I remove the exhaust, I will probably weld these up. Maybe, probably. That's not going anywhere. So I'm going to air the tires down a little bit because I really don't know what kind of conditions to expect out here. I'm hoping to find conditions that are somewhat challenging, but not too challenging because this is not a hardcore off-roader. We're at about 33 PSI, so... Brought it down to about 28 PSI. That'll help a little bit. I do need to be able to drive on paved roads after this to get home, so I don't want to go too low, but bringing it down 5 PSI will give me more contact with the ground, and if there are any rocks or sharp objects, it'll make it a little less likely for these to pop. As for tires, I have a set of Continental all-terrains. They're definitely more on the road-friendly side as the scale goes for all-terrain tires, but hopefully they are grippy enough for whatever I run into. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to set the suspension height to high. Over here on the terrain response, I'll set it to mud ruts, which is a good general off-road setting. And then we're going to put it in neutral, and then we can go into low range as well. So we're starting out right away, and what we're doing is we're going to be exploring some Class 6 roads here in southern New Hampshire. Class 6 roads are basically public roads, but they're not maintained by anyone or the town. Actually, in some cases they are maintained by private individuals, but for the most part they're not maintained. And this section of road, as you can see, is obviously not maintained. We're going down a bit of a hill, and it's a little bit rocky, although not too bad, but we'll see what we find up ahead. Now I have to say, I have no idea what we're gonna run into because I've never done this road before. Like I said, we're just exploring, and hopefully we find something that's a little bit challenging, but not too much challenging because I don't wanna get stuck out here. It feels like hill descent control is on, even though I didn't turn it on, because I'm not doing anything, we're just going down this hill. It's actually very nice and very easy. All I have to do is use the steering wheel a little bit. I don't have my foot on the brake or the gas or anything. Yeah, airing down the tires definitely helps with this. Like I mentioned, of course it helps when it comes to preventing punctures, but it also helps make the ride a little bit smoother, which is nice. So we're coming up to what looks like a split in the trail. To the left looks quite a bit easier than to the right. It looks pretty rocky to the right, and I think because this is my first time here, I think I want to go to the left and avoid the tough stuff over there. I mean, I assume that the reason why the trail splits like this is because that's pretty difficult. And let's be honest, this is not a purpose-built rock crawler. I have to say, overall, the visibility in this thing is pretty decent. I can see in front of the vehicle. It makes it a lot easier to pick your line when you're going through tricky situations. I don't know if you heard that noise, but my exhaust bottomed out just a little bit on a rock. I'm gonna make it through these narrow trees here without any difficulty. If I were in a Hummer, I don't think I'd be able to make it through those trees. And over here we do have some good sized boulders, so I am gonna have to choose a line here and hopefully avoid scraping anything like my exhaust or my axle. And this is the line I'm gonna choose. Nice and slow. Yeah, we didn't scrape at all. The ground clearance on this thing, when the suspension is raised, is really quite good. So it is quite rocky up ahead, so this is a really good time to go ahead and put it in rock crawl. Rock crawl mode makes the throttle less sensitive, and what else does it do? It requires low range, which is exactly what you would want for crawling over these rocks. And this is a tricky section here. I have two big boulders, and I'm gonna have to choose a line through here, and I think I'm gonna choose to go up to the right and hopefully totally avoid, oh, I'm on this log. I'm gonna back up a little bit. Having a spotter would not be a bad idea, but we'll avoid the rock to the left completely. Oh, hoo, 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 hoo. Oh boy. That was a little spooky. I'm on top of this log, so I'm gonna back up and get off of the log. Okay, we're off the log. And now I'm gonna go back down, not on the log. Oh yeah. It's going well so far. We haven't hit anything. We haven't rubbed or anything. Got a little bit of a ledge to go over here. Another test of ground clearance. Well, I think we got through that. That was kind of a tricky section, especially without a spotter, but we went through without a scratch. So, whew, I just say that and we just hit something. What did I hit? Okay, nothing major. Yeah, this thing's, I'm really impressed with the capability of this machine. I mean, you'd think of it as like a mall crawler type of vehicle, but it can really do some off-roading. Yeah, and it's also notable that this vehicle is completely factory, except for the all-terrain tires, I suppose. I don't know what it came with from the factory, but they're, yeah, just some basic all-terrain tires that aren't even that aggressive, and this thing can handle that. I guess I should know, that was going downhill, so that does make it easier. If I were doing that uphill, it would be a lot harder. Maybe we'll do that some other time. While we're going the rest of the way down this hill, let me take a moment to give you a little bit of an update on this project. So I bought the vehicle in December of last year. It's been almost a year now, and at the time I wasn't planning on buying a Land Rover. It just kind of turned up on the auction block and I thought, oh, that might be a really cool project vehicle for me to buy. It was listed as having a bad transmission, and I immediately suspected that it might not actually have a bad transmission, and so I purchased it for $1,700, which was a pretty low price considering its MSRP. If you've seen the project videos up to this point, then you'd know that, well, it turns out that the transmission was just fine and it was an issue with the shift linkage, so that was a major win. The vehicle has had a bunch of other issues that I've fixed. You know, most notably, it had a bunch of wiring issues that were caused by corrosion in the passenger side sort of rocker panel area because water was leaking in from the sunroof drain, which I have since fixed. Now water has started leaking in on the driver's side, which is probably also from the sunroof drain. I ordered a new drain hose for that. The driver's side door handle stopped working on the outside, which is really annoying. And I don't know, it probably has a few other issues here and there, but overall, it's a pretty solid vehicle. I really like driving it. You know, it's stylish, it's comfortable, it's nice to drive, it's really good for long road trips. I actually brought this vehicle on a multi-day road trip up to Maine. It was about a 5-hour drive to get there, and the vehicle did really well, had no issues, and the trip computer said that it got 20 to 21 miles per gallon, though take that as a grain of salt because trip computers are not always honest. But if that is true, that's pretty good for such a large, heavy vehicle. When I first bought this vehicle, I was thinking about doing a diesel swap because, well, I love diesel engines, and unfortunately, while diesel engines were an option in these in other parts of the world like Europe, they were not an option here in the US. I was thinking about swapping in like maybe a Mercedes diesel engine like the OM606 or the OM648. Those are both straight 6 diesel engines that have pretty good reputations for reliability. A project like this takes a lot of time and money. And as a YouTuber who's trying to grow my channel and earn a living off of YouTube revenue, I have to choose very wisely which large projects I undertake because frankly it needs to be worth it. My concern really is that I'm just not sure if my core audience has enough interest in a swap into a Land Rover like this. Now, to help gauge that, I guess I'll be watching the performance of this video really closely, so if you really like the idea of doing a diesel swap into this vehicle, go ahead and give the video a like. Leave a comment down below for the algorithm because those things will definitely help the video do better. The last thing that I want to talk about is that a lot of people have asked me whether or not I recommend buying one of these Land Rovers, and the answer is generally no, unless either you're willing and able to do the work yourself, or if you have a Christian Muth to do the work for you, because the repairs on these Land Rovers can be very time-consuming and costly, and most mechanics don't have all of the knowledge in order to repair them efficiently and quickly because these vehicles are so complex. And if you bring them to a Land Rover dealer, they pull the body off to do just about any repair, which makes it ridiculously expensive. If you can do the work yourself and if you have the time for it, I do think these vehicles are pretty awesome, so it's definitely something to consider if you fall into that category. Well, here we are at the bottom of this hill, and I'm really happy to see that there's no water crossing down here. I really wasn't sure what to expect. I did see on the map that there was some sort of a stream type of thing that goes through here, but it looks like they put some huge rocks in the way. There might be a culvert there, and yeah, no issues there. Not that this thing can't do a little bit of fording, but who knows? We've had a really wet summer and somewhat of a wet fall this year, so water levels could be pretty dangerously high. So we're coming up the other side of this hill, and it looks pretty rocky up here, so this will be a pretty good challenge for the off-road capabilities of Wanda. Although, at least for now, the rocks aren't that big looking, but we'll see what we find up ahead on the trail. Yeah, there are some bigger rocks up ahead, so I'll definitely have to choose a line and be a little bit strategic there. Take this line to the left. Oh, easy peasy. Yeah, and we're past it. I didn't lose grip at all, and I didn't have to use momentum to get myself up that, so that was pretty good. Well, now that we're out of that rocky stuff, I can put it back into mud ruts, which is a much better general off-roading setting. And it looks like we're coming up to a puddle, so we'll see how deep it is. We'll get to test a little bit of the fording action out on this thing and see how she does. So we're going to maintain some velocity. It's deep, actually. That was deeper than I expected, but you know, we're still running, so that's good. Well, it looks like we've reached the end of the unmaintained portion of road. We're coming up to a dirt road here that looks like it's fairly well maintained. And I have to say, I'm really happy with the vehicle. I'm also really happy with that road. That was actually excellent. I think I will be coming back here to have some fun later on. Maybe I'll do it in the other direction, which might be harder. And yeah, Wanda, she's done great today. I am really impressed by her capability. The road was harder than what I was hoping for, but she did so well and didn't have any issues, didn't slip, didn't lose traction. I didn't have to like go quickly through any sections to use momentum to my advantage. It just went really well. With that, I just wanted to say welcome and thank you so much to all of my new subscribers. Within the last month or so, we went from about 37,000 up to 61,000 subscribers as of today, mostly as a result of my gooseneck trailer build video doing really well. So thank you so much for subscribing, thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you in the next one. This is Land Rover ownership in a nutshell. We're getting a bunch of rain today, so I needed to throw a tarp over it.